So yeah, like Kona's definitely in my sights. Like I've always wanted to give it a go. So it'd be incredible, you know, if I was to go to South Africa and manage to qualify. I know it's going to be a huge task, but I am going there to do as well as I can. And, you know, I'm not going there not to win. I will try my hardest to win. And if that sets me up for Kona, then at least that's one ticked off quite early.
That's Adam Bowden, and you're listening to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, PrecisionHydration.com. You can personalize your hydration strategy today with electrolytes in different strengths that match how you sweat. You can get 15% off your first order with the code OxygenAddict15. And we're also brought to you by WeAreTribe.co, natural sports nutrition. You can try a pack of 6 delicious, 100% natural vegan energy and recovery products from Tribe for only £2, including free delivery with the code OxygenAddict20. All right, everybody, welcome to the show. I hope you're all doing good. I hope you're all managing to get some kind of shelter from the crazy storms we've been having over here in the UK over the weekend. As I'm sitting recording this, I've got sleet and I've got hailstones bouncing down outside the window. So rather glad to be training indoors today, I've got to say. Got some good stuff for you today. I've managed to grab a quick interview with, a proper interview with Adam Bowden, fresh from his third place finish over in 70.3 Dubai. So, managed to talk to him. Bless him, the poor lad has still got extremely sore legs and he's coming down the stairs on his bum still. But it's great for us mortals to know that even athletes of his caliber get struck down by the DOMs as well. All right, so we'll kick it off by talking about results. And then we'll go into our interview later on. Results section is brought to you by Tribe Natural Sports Nutrition. So these guys are great. You can get yourself a sample pack for £2. As I said before, that includes delivery, gets posted through your letterbox, and you can choose whichever 6 products you want. So you've got a choice between their energy bars. The Infinite Energy are great. They're all 100% natural nutrition bars, slow release energy, and 60% less sugar than the competitors. All our bars are vegan, gluten, and dairy free. They've also got a range of protein shakes with 20 grams of protein in. And again, they're vegan, gluten, and dairy free. And they've also got the protein bars. Now, these are my favorite. Their chocolate brownie protein bars are just the best thing ever for after a workout. So 10 grams of protein and dairy free as well. So get over there and check those out. If you haven't tried one of these before, like I said, £2 for a trial pack, including free delivery, with the code OxygenAddict20. So first up, results from this past weekend then. We had 70.3 Dubai. Now, Adam Bowden was defending champion. He'd won that for the past 2 years. And he had a decent race. As he'll say himself in the interview later on, he's not feeling like he's quite firing on all of his cylinders yet. He's had a bit of a break over the winter and he wasn't very well in the run-up to the 70.3 Worlds last year. So he's had a bit of a break and felt a bit rusty. But a very, very solid performance for him. He's been working with Matt Botterill on the bike and he had a new bike position that took him significantly under 2 hours on the bike. And he closed it down with, for him, he said it was a little bit disappointing, a 72-minute half marathon. Imagine that, being disappointed with a 72-minute half marathon. The win was taken out by Belgian Bart Arnault, and his countryman Peter Heinrich was in second. Then Adam Bowden there in third. Special shout out to Morgan Davis from Britain making his debut over the distance in 3:44 down in 12th place. So a cracking start for him. Over in the women's race, well, it was pretty much a domination by Imogen Simmons from Switzerland. She absolutely took it to the field on the bike and closed it out with about a 7-minute win over Danielle Dingman of the USA in second, and then Pamela Oliveira from Brazil in third place. It was interesting to see that Helen Jenkins is back there racing after, I think it was a 4-year break from racing she had spinal reconstruction surgery and she's had 2 kids. So to see her back racing and doing so well over the 70.3 distance, she let out of the water, had a cracking swim there. So I'm really glad to see her back racing again. And more than anything, I'm really glad to see her back healthy enough to race again after her back problems. So that's a really positive thing for her. And I hope that we see more racing from her over the coming year as well. Now, other results that I saw, well, not results really, but the field for Challenge Roth has been announced and they have pulled out. Listen to this. They've got podiums on both sides from Kona. So they've got Anne Haug, Lucy Charles-Barkley, Sarah Crowley on the ladies' side. They've got Jan Frodeno, Tim O'Donnell and Seb Kienle on the men's side. They've also got on the ladies' side Rachel McBride, Laura Siddle, Beth McKenzie. And over on the men's side, they've also got racing Cam Worth, Joe Skipper, Jesper Svensson, Andreas Dreitz, Josh Amberger, Cody Beals, Luke McKenzie, Matt Burton. Absolutely stacked field for them. So really a very significant proportion of the big names. The only serious name missing there is Daniela Reif, who's going to be racing, I believe, at Ironman Switzerland from what I read. So that's going to be amazing racing to check out there. And they do a fantastic job of putting a really big race on and getting all the big names there to go head to head. So it's really going to be, I think, without doubt, the biggest race of the year over the iron distance outside of Kona. So watch out for that on the 5th of July. Okay. Coach's Couch this week. I want to talk to you about the importance of a 4-week training cycle and, more importantly, the inclusion of regular recovery weeks. Now, we did a training webinar for the Outlaw guys a couple of nights ago. And this was a question that came up time and time again. It was like, how do I structure my own training if I'm coaching and training myself and putting my own training plan together? And a lot of the questions focused on things, as you would expect, like how much bike volume should I be doing? What intervals should I be doing? How long should my long run be? What almost nobody asked until halfway through was about the importance of recovery, how to build that into the week, and how to build recovery into your overall plan and into your month. And so what I'm going to say to you here is I'm a really big fan of the 4-week training cycle for most athletes. So we work on a section of 3 weeks of solid training, ideally each week being either a little bit bigger or a little bit more intense, or if you like, the overall training stress being bigger in week 2 than in week 1, and in week 3 than in week 2. Then in that 4th week, really the focus of that is shed a lot of that fatigue that you've built up and try and get your body back to full recovery. So in each one of our training weeks, I'll include a recovery focused day. But as we know, it's incredibly challenging for us to recover during those weeks. So that week, every 4th week, can be really beneficial to athletes to really make sure they rest and recover. And typically, I'll halve the volume of the biggest week in that recovery week. And a typical question is, well, what do I do when I'm not training? Well, the answer is use that time to get more sleep. And we were discussing this the other day in the office, and we said, do you realize that if you manage to get an extra hour of sleep every night over a week, it sounds obvious, but that's 7 extra hours of sleep, and that's an entire extra day's worth of sleep in a week. Even if you only get yourself 30 minutes of extra sleep a night, it's the equivalent to an extra whole night of sleep every fortnight. And any of you who've been listening recently to stories about extra sleep and the importance of this, and actually in the background, I'm working at getting a sleep expert on the show to come and talk about this. It's so important for your recovery. And men, it's been shown that men who have an average of less than 6 hours sleep a night have got half the testosterone of men who get 8 hours sleep a night, and a corresponding shrinking in the testicle size through having less than 6 hours sleep a night on a regular basis. So it's really important from a physical point of view, but also that's when our body releases growth hormone. It's when it releases testosterone. It's when we get that recovery that actually makes the difference. It's not during training that we get fitter, it's during the recovery from the training. So make sure you're taking care of that. For our older athletes, for guys over 50, it's even worth thinking about, if you're not recovering properly within a 4-week cycle, it's worth thinking about going to a 3-week cycle and having 2 harder weeks and an easier week. Again, it's an individual thing, but I can't stress the importance enough of getting your recovery correct, because it's when you're going to make the gains from that training, and it's going to help prevent you get sick and help prevent you get ill. And honestly, a lot of these things can be sorted out by looking at your sleep on a day-to-day basis before you even look at your recovery on a week-to-week or a month-to-month basis. So one of the things we were talking about as well on our webinar last night was about how to structure bike training. And I know I talk virtually week in, week out about the importance of bike training. You'll remember a couple of weeks ago, we hosted a ride for Try 24/7 on Zwift. Well, how about this for some news? We are going to have our own Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast Zwift ride. Every Tuesday, 7 o'clock, we're going to be hosting the Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast Power Hour. It's going to be a structured workout. It's going to be one of the workouts from my FTP Builder block. So you're going to get a chance to come in, and if you're already with us, great. You get to do one of our sessions alongside your mates. If you're not already with us and you want to come and give it a go and do some structured training in a way that's guaranteed to raise your FTP and give you a faster, more powerful bike leg this coming season, come along and train with us. We're going to run them every Tuesday. They're going to be at 7 o'clock UK time. Now, we've been told at the moment it's going to be plus or minus 15 minutes from that. So we're not sure of the exact time. If you're on our mailing list, we're going to send out an email to tell people exactly when it is, when it's been confirmed by Zwift. And that'll be easy for you. If you've not had the email, if you're not on our mailing list for whatever reason, you might find that information out on the social media. We'll put it out there for sure. But also, if you just log on to Zwift and you look in the group rides section, you'll be able to find it just scrolling through the rides on that day. So come along with us. The great thing about these group rides is, although we're all doing group training together, and it's going to be a good old interval session working on your FTP, the way Zwift structures it is, if, say, my functional threshold power is 150 watts and yours is 400, it doesn't matter. If we're working at the same relative percentage, we're going to ride next to each other on the road. So we're going to have a big pack of riders. I want to try and get 100 riders onto this ride. So come along, Tuesday night, starting from, now it's not going to be this week. Let me pull up my calendar here. It's going to be starting on Tuesday, the 18th of February. So that's going to be the first one, and then they're going to run weekly from that point on. So yeah, come along and have a ride with us and have a blast around with the Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast Power Hour. And I guarantee that following these structured workouts is going to raise your FTP. Great stuff. Now, one final thing is you can come and see what it's like getting properly coached by us with a professionally structured training plan. Get over to teamoxygenaddict.com and you can get your first month of proper coaching for £1. There's a link in the show notes to that, so you don't have to email me or send us a message on Facebook. Just go into the show notes here or the show notes on the show page on the internet and just click that link and it'll take you straight through to join. There's no commitment at the end of that month. We really want to give you a genuine chance to try out what structured training and coaching is all about. And I think if you're looking for coaching, you're absolutely going to love the experience and you're going to stick around with us. All right, let's go over to this week's interview of the week with our third place finisher from 70.3 Dubai this weekend and previous two-time winner, Adam Bowden. Adam Bowden, welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast. It's lovely to catch up with you, and it's great to finally get you on the show. I think you're long overdue an appearance here after your racing over the last couple of years. So first up, we've got to ask, how are the legs feeling after the race at Dubai at the weekend? Are you managing to walk straight again yet?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Rob. I appreciate it. And yeah, it's been a long time coming, and I think you've asked me previously, but yeah, I'm glad to be on the show now. So. Legs are pretty sore from Dubai. You know, walking up the stairs a bit like John Wayne, and it's kind of like the normal sort of feeling you get when you've first done a race of the season. It always happens. I remember last year when I did Bahrain, it was like I could feel that. Yeah, my body wasn't used to that racing again, and hopefully you get that race out of the way, and your body becomes more ready for racing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Dubai's been a very successful hunting ground for you, hasn't it? You had wins there in 2018 and 2019 and then a third place this year. Is it a particular venue that you enjoy racing at?
Yeah, I love Dubai. I think it's how the culture is out there, in the sense of the people are they call me a sir a lot. I had some transfers, and basically I was saying, like, I'm coming through, I'm sorry I'm running a bit late, got hold up in this, but the guy that I was communicating with was calling me sir, and I'm thinking I've never been knighted or anything like that, but it's kind of like that amazing feeling you get from someone, you know, calling you sir and like respecting you in that way. And I think I fit in pretty well with my beard out there. Like, there's quite a few beards about. I think I'm quite welcomed in that sense. So
you have got a quality beard going on, Adam. I have to say, it's as a fellow beardsman, I think it's a good look to have, mate.
I know, I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, when you go quicker, have you taken it off?" But it's that mean-looking machine that I want to portray, and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, I just love hot climates as well. I seem to perform a lot better in those conditions. So Dubai is ideal for that. Even at this time of the year, it's a nice temperature, and yeah, there's something about the warm weather that my body's so much more happier.
Brings out the best in you, hey?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
How do you go about? Do you end up having much of an off season? Because it's really early to be racing, isn't it? The very start of February to get yourself in the kind of shape to race the guys you're racing out there.
Yeah, well, this year I made sure that I didn't do Bahrain. Like the other 2 years, I had 2 seasons almost back to back, and I didn't have a recovery, and I got ill, last year towards the back end. That's why my races started to become not as successful, because I picked up this flu virus and it just massively knocked me for 6. And I think it's because I had 2 years, obviously racing Bahrain in December, and then I wanted to race. I wanted to race in Dubai, so it was almost like quick recovery, back on the training, and I think a little bit of that, but at the same time, it's probably how much I wanted to win worlds and how much I pushed my body a bit, probably too much, that could have caused me to get ill. But you're always on that fine line, and I think maybe I just overcooked the training a little bit, but it could be, it's a mixture of those two, I think. But this year, I made sure I had a good around about 6 weeks off, and I mean totally off.
Okay.
I had a lot of spending time with the family and stuff like that, rather than I just wanted to take my mind totally clear of it, and I think that's what really refreshes you, because you're always stuck in this triathlon world and there's no other distractions, and it's nice to, now that I've got a family orientated life, that I can distract myself and enjoy that side of things, rather than even during your break you can overthink triathlon, and I think you need a mental as well as physical break.
Yeah, it was a pretty long season for you last year, wasn't it? I had a nosy on the old Ribble Cycles blog. So last year you had a win at 70.3 Dubai, then third at Oceanside, second at Paydax, third at Dunleary, and then second at Weymouth. So those races are spread from sort of the start of February all the way through to middle of September, really, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that was kind of like, there was a lot of racing, but like I say, because I was hit by that illness, it messed up a few of the races in the middle as well that I was targeting, and obviously the Worlds as well didn't go the way I wanted, and that's why the Worlds didn't go as well, and I just wanted a race to finish on a high, really. So I thought I'll give a local race a go, like, in the UK.
Yeah.
And those races, I still wasn't 100%, and you can see by some of my photos at the end that I was mentally, physically, I was done, so it was nice still to finish on the podium in that race.
Yeah, it was a rotten day as well, wasn't it? It was cold and rainy and stormy and all kinds of stuff there. What happened out at Nice then? How did your race go at the World Champs out in Nice?
Like I say, it was I had the flu just after the challenge race, and even in the challenge race I had a massive issue on the run. I had to stop 3 times, and my girlfriend was shouting at me, you got to carry on, like, get a gel in you, and I managed to finish the race in the end, but I absolutely collapsed on the floor, and I was in real bad trouble type thing. And I think that, as well as the amount I was pushing into the Worlds, yeah, I got to the Worlds probably a little bit tired, and even though I felt like I was over the flu, because I was bedridden for a good week with the flu, and then I started training and managed to get some good training in beforehand, but I couldn't access my top end, so something was still lingering in my body, even though I had blood tests and stuff like that. But I still think there was something every time I wanted to access that top part, it didn't allow me. And yeah, when I got to Nice, I got out there earlier and made sure I, recce'd the course well, because it was a brutal course, it was that mountain climb, and I knew that all the preparation I had done was perfect, in the sense of I'd done all I can to rectify what the course was going to be like. And then I felt fine in the swim. The swim was good. I got out where I needed to be at the front, close enough to the front to make sure that I knew to cover anything that happens in that first few Ks of the bike. And then I got onto the bike, and the flat bit was fine, but as soon as I hit the first climb, which I'd done numerous times and felt fine up, my breathing was literally like irate, and my whole body was filling up with felt like lactic, and I was thinking, well, I've not pushed it that hard to this hill. What's going on? And it was quite demoralising, really, because people started just passing me, and I was thinking, what's happening? Why am I breathing out my arse? Do you know what I mean? And and it was just a battle the rest of the race, mental battle, and to hold myself together. I gave myself credit in that sense, that I still held it together, and then got to the run, and I just couldn't run the way I wanted to run either, and finished that, and I was massively distraught and pretty upset with that result. And then, like I say, that's why I wanted to go and do Weymouth, just to try and finish on a high.
Yeah. It's really hard, isn't it, when you get properly sick, and it sounds like you were, if you're bedridden with the flu, it takes more than 7 days to clear it out of your system, doesn't it? And in a perfect world, you'd have the time to recover fully, but with something like the World Championships approaching, it's super, super hard to take the time, isn't it, to get as well as you need to get. It's a very difficult juggling act.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, because it was the Worlds, I just so wanted it bad, and I just was hoping that my body would be right by then, because you might feel right, like you say, but I'm sure there was something still not quite right in my body. But you learn from these things, and it's one of those things. Athletes were always on that edge, and you might get a cold, you might get worse than that, but it's kind of thinking, and that's why the importance for me is making sure that I rest well on the off season. I totally rest my mind as well as my body, and I think that's where a lot of athletes might go wrong, in the sense of if they don't give themselves long enough mentally as well as physically, because as athletes we're like, oh, I'll just get back on it, my body feels fine, but generally have you given yourself enough time mentally as well as physically? So
it's a long game, isn't it? If you're going to have a career that lasts for a decade or 15 years, then you've really, especially when and this goes for age groups as well as pros, it's really tempting to get to the end of season in great shape and think, I'm going to build on what I did this year and get even fitter for next year. But almost without fail, if people don't have that break, that 4 weeks or 6 weeks of just total downtime, it's just something happens, doesn't it, in January or February, and your body forces you to take a break.
Yeah, massively. Yeah, it will definitely bite you back. I've done it as a youngster, I was always like, you got to be doing more, you got to do more, you got to do more. And I think over the years, it's just real experience and understanding and experiencing what rest actually does for you. Is where you get fitter, and that's the hardest thing as a youngster, to go, I need some time off. I don't want to think about triathlon and things like that, because when you're young, you're eager. So I think over the years I've just learned a lot, and my body almost tells me a lot more information now because I understand it more. Whereas before it was telling me stuff, but I was kind of like oblivious to it.
I think we're all guilty of that at times, Adam.
Yeah.
So listen, tell us about your progression into triathlon in the first place, because a lot of people know this already, but you started out as a runner and as a very, very good track runner, and you were at the Commonwealth Games in the steeplechase in 2006, weren't you?
Yeah, in Melbourne, Australia. Yeah, that was absolutely what a place to, do my first Commonwealth Games. It was massive stadium, 90,000 capacity, and I don't think I'll ever be surrounded by that incredible atmosphere ever. It was just unbelievable, and I came ninth in the final of the Commonwealth Games, and I think
awesome.
I gave it my all, and I was pleased with that result. I won. Yeah, later on I won the Olympic trials in 2008, but to the steeplechase, but I didn't have the qualifying time. I missed it by 4 seconds, so I didn't actually go to the Olympics, which was massive. That was it hit me hard, and that was my turning point to think that I want to try something different. I've kind of jumped my early part there.
Well, I was going to say, was that the tipping point that turned you on to triathlon, that sort of not quite getting yourself to the Olympics in the steeplechase?
Yeah, I think winning the Olympic trials is still a phenomenal achievement. And
yeah, absolutely.
One, that stays with me, and only being 4 seconds off that qualifying time was still a big achievement. But I think what was the question? Sorry.
Well, what's obviously I'd imagine the aim is to get to the Olympics, isn't it, and go and perform at the highest stage there. Was not getting selected for the Olympics, was that the thing that kind of gave you the nudge towards triathlon?
Yeah, it was that, and as well as I had to be realistic to myself, and I thought, can I win a medal, and can I earn a living out of being a steeplechaser? And realistically, with it being so African dominated, you got to be realistic to some degree. Yes, I could probably run quicker, but would it have been quick enough? No, I don't think so, because you're looking at, you want to be running close to 8 minutes as possible, and I was, 24 seconds off that, and that's a fair old way if you think of it in the steeplechase. And it was just, I thought if I don't make the switch now, I might regret it if I carry on in athletics. And I had a county level swimming background, and I went to the nationals as a young relay squad. I think we came last, but it was still a good achievement on our part to make a national appearance. But it was that, and having an international running background on the road, track and cross country. I thought, if I can learn how to ride a bike, I knew it wasn't going to be that easy, but it's at the highest level. But I thought, of all the three sports, maybe the bike is the easiest to pick up.
Yeah, it does seem that way, doesn't it? I think when British Triathlon do their selection weekends for the youths, I don't know whether they still do this, but they certainly used to just look at swimming ability and running ability. And if you were quick enough in those two, they'd say, well, we can teach people to bike. If you've got the engine and you've got the skills, then we'll teach you to bike, kind of thing. And it certainly looks as though you've turned yourself into a pretty handy biker.
Yeah, well, it's been good. It's still been massive learning curve, moving from the Olympic distance up to 70.3, just the sheer fact that it's non-drafting and it's less stochastic, so you don't have huge spikes, but there are still spikes at the start of the race, but in power. It's more about learning how to hold that gap of 12, 20 meters, whatever the race will be at the time, and learning more about how aero is important, I believe. And this year, I'm now being coached bike-wise by Matt Bottrell, and it's been really interesting working with him. And you don't, until you work with a specialist in that kind of field, you don't realize that there were things that no one's ever told you. And there's just bits of information and little tricks or tips that he's given me on position, even from like where to hold your hands, to bring your shoulders in, etc. They're all these little things that I'm like, why didn't I know that before? You don't unless you have these specialist people in that field. And I went on camp over Christmas time, and it's just been enjoyable. Every single session's been totally new and exciting. So I'm getting on that bike, more raring to go almost. So yeah, and there's been days where it's been very painful, but like I think even in Dubai I rode 4 minutes quicker, and I think that's down to having being more efficient on the bike, a better position. So 4 minutes quicker than last year, and
that's massive, isn't it? Yeah.
So I was more isolated last year as well than this year. So I'm sorry, the other way around. I was more isolated this year than I was last year. I was in more of a group last year, whereas this year I was isolated towards the back end of the race, but still managed to ride a 1 hour 57 for the 90k. So
that's amazing, mate, isn't it? That's to go under 2 hours. Is that the first time you've been under 2 hours at the half distance?
No, I did it in Bahrain when I got the fastest like UK time. I biked a sub 2 hour. I think I've done it a couple of times, but 1:57 is really dipping under.
It's really shifting, isn't it?
Yeah. So, and then obviously I have my coach already, Andy Lane, and the head coach, Luke Watson. So it's kind of like I've got 3 coaches working with me, but because Luke's the head coach of the centre, the Cardiff Performance Centre, he's going to be at most of the sessions, whereas Andy's a lecturer, like at the Cardiff Uni, so time's a bit less frequent with him.
I see.
But they're all, communicating, and it's been fine, because you always have that little bit of fear that will everyone get along and will it work? But no, they seem to be all singing from the same hymn sheet, which is what an athlete needs, really. So
yeah, absolutely. And it looks like you biked really well, but you also ran really well as well. You ran a low 1:12 off the bike, which is really shifting as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I still think I'm a little bit off on my running, but the main focus during the winter was the biking, because I keep telling people, I want to be strong on the bike. I can't be giving people 2 minutes off the bike and things like that. And I think I'm definitely going to be closer this year. And I know for a fact if I can get off with those guys and run my usual 70 or faster, then I'm in for the winning, or at least be on the podium. And yeah, I still think my running in Dubai wasn't where I wanted to be, because it felt a long way, whereas when I'm going super well running wise, then it doesn't feel as far. Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's still painful, but a lot of last year I was running around that 70 mark until I got that flu virus. But yeah, that's the benchmark for me, is kind of like that 70 or below area. And I think once I'm there, then my running's in a definite good pace. But yeah, a 72 is still moving.
It amazes me how much the sport's moved on in the last few years, in that guys like you are now looking at riding under 2 hours and then wanting to run under 70 minutes to feel like you've had a decent run. It's like the standard is raised by 2 or 3 notches.
Yeah, massively. I think everyone knows how, you've got these Uber cyclists, but I think nowadays, if you've not got that swimming background, then you could be left behind, even some of the strongest Uber bikers, because if you've got the likes of, Anthony, Alistair, Gomez, etc., all sort of from an IT background, moving up, got that fast swim pedigree in them, then it's very hard for then those Uber bikers, because you saw it in Kona, and to catch those type of guys. So I think if your swim is front group, you're putting yourself in a good position anyway. And then if you can run 70 or below, you're in the running for the win. So I think, yeah, like you say, it's moved on massively, and I think it's just, yeah, more people, more high caliber of athletes are just, it's more depth as well. So
it does seem like there's an awful lot of guys out there going very, very quick these days. You know, if you look at the results from the weekend, you've got Peter Heinrich and you've got Bart Arnault all going like between 3:33 and 3:36. It's such a deep field, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it seems like it's becoming the norm to run around that sort of time. So yeah, everyone has to then try and move on again. So that's why, yeah, I'm saying almost that 70 is that sort of benchmark, and anything below that is going to put you massively in the running for the win.
Yeah. So listen, you mentioned Kona a minute ago. I don't know whether you've ever done a full Ironman, but what are your thoughts on the full distance?
It's funny you say that, but that's my next race. So I'm planning on doing the Ironman South Africa, the Ironman Championships in South Africa. So
okay, nice. So you've got, where are we now? You've got about 6 weeks to go as we're doing the interview at the moment, haven't you? How's preparation going?
Yeah, I think like I've done, some rides that are 5 hours, 150k, but I still think to myself, oh my God, I've still got to ride, another 30k on top of that, and I'm like, geez. So it's kind of like exciting, and I think I will go well as long as I can get all the small processes right, as in pacing and my nutrition. I think nutrition will be critical, and I think it plays a part massively in all athletes. If they can get their nutrition / pacing right, then you're giving yourself a head start of the game, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think swim wise I'll cope. I think run a marathon, I need to up some of my runs to make sure that I can cope with that type of distance. And then, yeah, biking wise, I think it's just going to be a matter of, being in a time trial position for that period of time is going to be uncomfortable at times. But, I just got to make sure that I'm sticking to my race plan and stuff like that. So I'm excited, but I'm also fearful. But that was the same with me when I first did like 70.3 racing. I was kind of like, oh my God, what am I letting myself into, and you do it and you think, well, no, I did very well there, but it's, you're a high caliber athlete, you can cope with this, but it's still, it's just a daunting thing. It's like going for a job interview with a massive, a successful company that could earn you millions, and you're panicking about it. It's that kind of similar feeling that I'm putting myself in the deep end as well, because it's the South African Championships, isn't it? The African Championships. So the field is going to be very, very strong, but I think at least it will give me a massive indicator of what I'm like over that distance, and I just have to see how it goes, really.
There's only one way to find out, isn't there? You've got to chuck yourself in and see what the body does when you get to hours 6 and 7.
Yeah, just thinking about that is like, oh my God.
You don't think of it till your legs are not quite as sore after the race that just happened a couple of days ago. That'd be my advice to you. Give yourself another couple of days,
No, definitely. I got to make sure I get some good recovery in now this week, and then I can bump it back up and get some miles in the tank. So.
Yeah. All right, let's talk a little bit about how difficult it is making a living as a professional. You mentioned earlier on it was going to be impossible for you felt, to make a living as a runner. How is that working out for you, trying to make a living as a triathlete?
I think when I was on funding, so when I first started on the Tri Gold, I don't know if you remember the Tri Gold scheme for runners wanting to get into triathlon, and it was almost like this fast track program that Barry Wells, multimillionaire, kindly supported that, and he supported me in my early days, as in he put us up in accommodation, paid for all our accommodation so we could focus solely on triathlon. I got thrown in with the best athletes in the world. Obviously I trained with, Alison, Johnny, and that was a huge insight into triathlon, to see that, to see what they were actually doing. And even from, they probably laugh at this, but going to the supermarket, and I've always been one to like vegetables and health and stuff like that, and we were going around and this trolley was being filled up, and I was thinking, there's no fruit or veg in this trolley. I think we need to. And I said something, and they were like, yeah, we can have some peas. I was like, peas? We need more than just peas. And I think it was good for both of us. No, me in the sense of that they obviously needed just calories, but at the same time, I think from having me there as well, I think they learned a lot about, having a bit more veg in their diet. So, yeah, that was interesting. And like I say, yeah, the support I got when I then moved from the Tri-Gold team onto funding. So I was on World Class Potential, and then I moved up to World Class C funding, so Podium C funding. And I think because you get all your flights, Laura Macy used to book up your flights, used to book up your accommodation, so that was all taken care of, and transfers and all that. And then anything you made in the race was solely yours. Now, since the switch to 70.3 racing, it's now been about digging into my savings, because there's no real funding available apart from, the sponsors out there. And yeah, if I go into the people that have helped me through sponsorship, then
who are some of the guys who sponsored you recently?
So I'm continuing with Ribble for the bikes. Really excited to continue with this sponsorship. It's still relatively small brand, I would say, in the sense of it's not worldwide almost, but they are expanding, and I think it's got huge potential to easily go worldwide. And
it's a very fast bike, isn't it? There's some very fast times been posted on that, and I'm a big fan of them, because my first ever racing bike back in 1989 was one of their Ribble steel framed 531 bikes. I'm going back in the day now, mate. It'll be before you were born, probably. But yeah, I used to love Ribble. They used to have a proper shop in Preston. You could go in and they'd have all the frames hanging up, and then you pick your components, and your dad would build it up in the garage for you. It was happy days, man.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. And, I've had input into certain parts of the bike that I think they could adjust to get in line with, what a triathlete needs, as well as, because obviously there's two markets there. You've got the cyclists as well as you've got the triathletes, and they need a slightly different setup on their bike. So, the hydro systems and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think having that good relationship and sharing the opinions, etc., will only make the bike better. But at the moment, the bike is phenomenal anyway, and it is fast, and I enjoy riding it. So.
Yeah, it's a very cool looking bike. I think GCN did a good article on it as well, so the listeners can go and check out the video on that if they enjoy a bit of bike porn. That'd be good for them to see.
Yeah, that was done at the Challenge Championship, and I think Mark Frelfel mentioned that it's the bike that no one's probably really heard of, but what more likely one of the fastest out there,
Yeah. Yeah. Who are some of the other sponsors then? Who sponsors your swim kit and your running stuff?
Yeah, so I'm with Zone 3 again for this year. Just the suit and everything is so comfortable, and there's other brands out there, but I really get on with that suit, and I think that's the critical thing in sponsorship, is you could be offered a huge amount from someone else, but at the end of the day, it's about that product as well, and it's got to fit you, and you want to be comfortable in it. And Zone 3 is just, it's another level of, like, the wetsuit is super fast, I get on with the goggles.
Are you in the Are you in the Vanquish?
Yeah, the Vanquish. Yeah, so
yeah, it's a nice suit.
Yeah, like I get no problems around the neck area, and like it's a good amount of buoyancy. It's fast, and I think it's becoming more and more popular brand in the sense of the caliber of athletes that actually go in with Zone 3 now. So, and I generally think that is because it's fast and comfortable and reliable, and yeah, it's just a very good brand.
Awesome. And I've seen a photo of you. Are you in the Hoka on those carbon sole ones?
Yeah, I'm still new to trying out all the different shoes, but I have been racing in the Carbon X and
Carbon X, that's the one.
Yeah, and then I've been training in the Cliftons because I find what I found is when I was no longer with Asics, I wanted something that would best cope with impact and stuff. Because when you get older, I'm not too old, but like when you do get older, you need that sort of reduced impact. And I just put a Hoka shoe on, and I was just like, wow! I just couldn't believe how soft they were, and that's what you need. I think is you need response, but at the same time you need
you need to be comfy,
impact.
don't you?
Yeah.
I've just made the switch over to them as well, and I had the same experience. I put them on and just went, "Oh, I'm buying these. Just take my money." They were so comfortable, and they continue to be. They're a great shoe.
Yeah, and I think with the wide versions as well, because that's what I tended to need because I've got quite a wide foot, and having that option of a wide version as well as the normal version was very helpful in the sense of I liked the shoe, and that enabled me to have no issues with when my foot landed, that the spread would be fine on it. So it's been really good joining forces with them, and I'm excited to see what they have next, because it's all about this rivalry between Nike and they brought out the carbon foot plate, and everyone's trying to rival that, I suppose.
But what's your experience been of the Carbon X's? Because I've not tried a pair. Do you feel like you can tell the difference when you're running in them?
Yeah, I think when you first initially put them on, you definitely feel a huge push off the ground. But
right.
I think because generally I've got quite a big force off the ground, it's probably a little bit less for me. But I think someone that has a short contact time on the ground would massively benefit them. I think I've always been one of those athletes that's got quite a lot of force out the back of my my run technique, so I probably feel it less. But yeah, I definitely feel the difference. It's almost like when you put just a new pair of trainers in general, you're like, wow, these feel bouncy, and and I think that's what they do. So as well as still having that cushioning, because a lot of the other brands were going a little bit too narrow, I think, on the actual cushioning. It became 4 mil or less than that. It was really a small amount. So I think having that carbon foot plate, stiff, rigid thing, but still having a good sponge around it massively helps.
Yeah, they do look great. I've got to say, I'm really tempted to go out and try a pair. Yeah, good stuff. And you mentioned before as well, obviously a big part of keeping you moving is getting good physio and getting your body looked after. How much time do you actually spend getting worked on by a physio as a pro triathlete?
Well, that's the thing. I'm very lucky to, my girlfriend Rianne is owner of One-to-One Therapy in Bridgend, and she owns her own business, and to have her around and literally, you get a niggle, and Rianne's brilliant. She'll be working it on even when we're watching TV or something like that. So I've got huge access there.
So it's physio on tap, basically. You're sitting watching the telly and you're getting a massage. That's fantastic, mate.
Yeah, and I think even being with Rianne, and because obviously I was very independent. I was living in Loughborough originally on my own, at the High Performance Centre, and it was very you're quite selfish in a sense. And then I met Rianne on a training camp in Portugal, Rio Mule, with the British Triathlon, because it was actually Helen that knew Rianne because she lives in Wales, and she was like, "Oh, I've got this physio, she'll be good to have out there," because we didn't have anyone out at the time. And then we met out there, and then became good friends, etc. And then from there it was now moved in, been here a few years, and it's just brilliant in the sense of she's brought the real Adam out, and made me more confident, made me who I am today, and believing in myself a bit more. Like I was always lacking in that belief a bit, and she's helped massively in all of that, and the support she's given me, not only through physio, etc., but throughout the whole as a triathlete, what you need, you need that PA, you need that physio, you need that, etc. She's been all that, and now I'm living a family life as well. I've got 2 stepsons. It was a big change, going from Loughborough, moving up to Wales, and being part of a family. It was scary for me at the time, but the boys accepted me really well, and I'm now a stepdad to 2 brilliant boys, really. And
nice. Oh, you sound like you're in a really good place, mate. That's really good to hear.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just a great place to train as well. Like Wales, always thought of it as raining non-stop and things like that, but it does. But like I'd say when the weather is good, it's one of the best in the world. It's like there are mountain climbs, and when you're not used to that, when you're born in Watford, and I think definitely it's one of those places that is perfect when you get good days.
Nice. And it's definitely doing something right for the legs as well. If you can get out and deal out the pain in the races like 70.3 Dubai on a world stage, mate. So that's really good. Listen, just before we wrap this up, tell us about your plans for the rest of the year. You've obviously got Ironman South Africa coming up. Does that mean in a perfect world you've got your eyes on Kona?
So like Kona's definitely in my sights. Like I've always wanted to give it a go, so it'd be incredible, if I was to go to South Africa and manage to qualify. I know it's going to be a huge task, but I am going there to do as well as I can, and I'm not going there not to win. I will try my hardest to win, and if that sets me up for Kona, then at least that's one ticked off quite early.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. Well, I hope it goes well for you. I know everyone's first Ironman is as worrying for a pro as worrying for any age group doing it for the first time. But listen, thank you so much for your time. It's been great chatting to you, and hope we can catch up again later in the year. Who knows? Maybe you'll be on the podium at Kona and we can catch up with you again then.
Yeah, definitely love to do that. Yeah, that would be absolutely incredible. And I appreciate your time, and it's been really great talking to you.
Well, good stuff, man. We'll talk to you again soon.
Cheers.
Really enjoyed that interview with Adam. I think he sounds like a great guy, and it was really nice to hear him talking about his family situation at the end and how happy and settled he is. And I think that's even more important than triathlon performance, to be perfectly honest with you all. That's fantastic. All right, that interview was brought to us by Precision Hydration. So if you've not got yourself over there and tried it out yet, what are you waiting for? You need to take proper care of your electrolyte levels. If you're training indoors during the winter, if you're on the turbo, getting that precision hydration in while you're riding is going to help prevent cramps, and it's going to help you recover from the ride faster afterwards. I've been getting onto Zwift for the last 4 weeks or so now. In fact, I was up super early this morning doing an interview with somebody over in Australia who you'll find out about later on. And after that interview was over, it was still 6:30 in the morning, and I jumped onto Zwift and I had a blast around on Zwift, do my interval session with none other than Jan Frodeno. How cool's that? So I was chugging down the PH 1500 as I was riding there. Not a hint of cramp as I was going along, which is great for me because I've been getting twinges still in my calves as I've been getting back into fitness. I was riding along thinking, this is great. There's Jan Frodeno in front of me. all of a sudden Jan decided, it turns out he was just having a leisurely warm-up. He dropped a casual 5.5 watts a kilo and rode away from me like he was on a moped. So that was really good for my ego, but he certainly gave me a little G up. So yeah, if you're not on Zwift, get on there, start following the pro triathletes, and you get a little notification on your phone when they start riding, and you can just jump in, you can click a button and it says, make me ride next to these people. And if you're fast enough to keep up, you can keep up. I know Lionel Sanders is on there a lot as well. So yeah, get over there and give it a go, and make sure you're taking care of your electrolytes from our friends over at Precision Hydration. Keep those cramps at bay. All right, guys, that's it for this week. That wraps it up. Thank you to our sponsors, Precision Hydration. Get 15% off your first order with the code OxygenAddict15. Tribe, use the code OxygenAddict20 at checkout to get 6 bars or shakes for £2. And Thriver.co, if you're interested in checking out your health and getting a blood test done at home, you can use the code OxygenAddict50 over at Thriver.co. They've got fantastic home blood sampling kits. You just do a finger prick blood test and you post it away and you get all the results back later on. So if you haven't listened to our health and performance special from New Year's Day, get back and listen to that, and I think that'll really convince you of the value of looking at the levels of what's going on with your vitamins and minerals and other things like that in your blood. So 50% off your first test with the code OxygenAddict50. If you want to take the guesswork out of your training, come and see what it's like getting properly coached with me with a professionally structured planner over at teamoxygenaddict.com. Get your first month for £1. And remember, there's links for all of those in the show notes, so you don't have to remember them. All right, guys, I hope you are enjoying the weather and you're getting your training done. It will be springtime soon, and before we know it, it'll be time for us to do some racing. So buckle down, get that training done. I hope this week's interview has given you some inspiration. Have a great, safe training and racing week. I'm Coach Rob Wilby, and you've been listening to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. See ya.